Hello and welcome to Networks and Data Security video number 8. My name is Chris and today we're going to be talking about, actually I don't have these notes, hold on. And we're back. Alright, so this video is about the established guidelines for the storage and archiving of data. And near the end of it we're going to go over the procedure for backing up a database to a remote location for data archiving. And for that, I'm going to move on to my handy dandy PowerPoint. Before we begin, there are a few things you should keep in mind when you're about to back up your database. Number one, the backup statement can't be part of any transactions. You can't have this linked and tied into things like select statements and whatnot. The backup functionality is actually separate and apart from almost anything else you can do with a database. Number two, backups that are created in a more modern version of SQL Server cannot be restored by an older version of SQL Server. So using 2017 to make a backup of your database, you can't then port that over to, I don't know, 2012 or what was the one before that? Insert old database management software title here. And third, estimate your database size. I mean, as your database grows, it's going to get larger. And so creating a backup of the database means you're making a copy. I mean, as your database gets larger, so will the backup. And a lot of times in the bigger corporations especially, storage isn't necessarily an issue because they have the money for the overhead on storage and service and things like that. But so if your concern, as time goes on, as your database grows, if your concern is that your storage is becoming more and more limited for your backups, maybe consider supplemental backups instead. These are like sequential backups where your database is broken down into component parts, backed up some to this drive and some to that drive and some in that place. Not exactly the most efficient when trying to read it all back to restore it. It's not going to be the fastest, obviously, but it can help you with your storage issues. I know it sounded like there was more to add to that sentence, but I had nowhere to go with it. And now on with the show.
And so, now comes the PowerPoint presentation. To demonstrate how to copy or back up your database to a remote location, there are a few different ways you can go about doing this. Because it's familiar to me, I've kind of looked into the process and walkthrough for MySQL Workbench, which is what we're going to be working with. That's it right there. Now, MySQL Workbench does handle database migration. There is a somewhat convoluted way of migrating an entire database schema from your current server to a remote server. To do this, you would first go into MySQL Workbench, right-click on your database itself. You're going to choose the Export and Migrate option. Now, before you do this, though, you need to make sure that you've configured the connection for both the database that you're looking to back up for that server and the remote server that you intend to connect and back the database up to. Now, once you set up those connections, you can right-click on your database itself, go to the Export and Migrate option, where it'll ask you for the source, which will be the one you want to back up, of course. You'll be able to pick and choose manually what you are backing up, what you're taking, what you're leaving, etc. And then you'll have the option to choose from a drop-down menu from your source connections, in which case you would choose your destination server. Now, make sure that any database, tables, folders, whatnot, that this one will be copying over either don't exist or are empty. Otherwise, they may potentially overwrite records in the destination server, if not outright destroy what's there already. Moving on. First step, open Workbench. Next step, go to your database schema. This is the one that you want to back up. Once you're looking at the list of your database schemas, on the left side, right-click on the table, or in this case, it's doing it with a specific table, but you can do this to the database as well. It's the same thing. But you'll be presented with a pop-up menu. You can choose the Data Export or Import wizard. And for the purposes of this demonstration, it was the table that was selected, but it's the exact same wizard that you're going to walk through. So to back up your database to a file, the first thing you do is choose the Data Export wizard. Next, a screen will pop up. If you chose the database itself instead, you'll be presented with a screen to choose which tables you want to keep, which is going to allow for the customization of not just the tables you're taking with you, but the columns that are in there as well. Because we right-clicked on the table for this one, the window that pops up is the Table Data Export. In this case, it'll show you the table itself that you selected, and the columns that are contained in it. Now, if you notice, next to or at the end of the selection box for Sequela Actor, you can actually click that drop-down box and choose a different table that's in your database on the fly. I didn't test if making these selections one table to the next would include them all in the backup. They might. What's the harm? Have some fun. Anyway, once you select the columns that you want to take with you for the table that you selected in this example, you click Next. This is where you're going to choose the file path. What it's doing here is letting you choose the destination. This is where it's going to save the table data to file. And you can choose either JSON or CSV. Now, wherever you choose to save this file, as long as you know where it's at, great. What you're going to be doing with this file after the fact is using it during the data import wizard process, where you'll actually pull this file in, and it's going to extract all your database info that you're exporting right now and put it into the applicable table and database schema structure on the destination server. This would require you to manually transfer the file over, or in the case that you already have the connection string configured in Workbench, you can, once you're done this export wizard, switch to that database using that connection string instead. Choose to right-click, choose the table import data wizard, and in this case you would select the file that you just finished saving, and it'll import that backup data into the database on that remote server that you've just switched to. But once you've made your selections, click Next again. At this point, you're prepared with the once you've made those selections, click Next again, and at this point, you are presented with the two steps it's going to take. One, prepare the export, and two, export the data to file. Now, when you click Next or Finish, is what it'll show on this window. But once you click Next or Finish, what it's actually going to do is process that backup, where it iterates through all the different columns that you selected for the table that was indicated. It's going to pull whatever data and rows are in there and copy them into that CSV file, which it's saving in the folder that you specified on the previous screen. Once it's done, you'll receive confirmation that it has finished performing the tasks. You click Next to continue, and the wizard is done. You'll be returned to the Workbench, and you can go on with your life and your database and have even more fun creating backups. I'm going to assume that there isn't anything else I need to add to this video. I'm pretty sure this was the last bit of it. So, for the purposes of video number 8 for Networks and Data Security, again, my name is Chris. Thank you for watching and listening, and I don't know, watch the next one or something. We're always covering something new, always having fun, maybe a bit too much.